Okay, back to the project. We are working on the last like 14 inches of the underbelly insulation on this. This is going to be like the generator housing, propane, hydraulic jack, stuff like that. So a little bit more complicated area maybe. Okay, so kind of firing up before I actually go down on the awesome creeper that my wife bought me. I mean, I know that I've mentioned that a few times, but man, let me tell you. Remember, I had that other one since like 93 or 94. I think it was like 93 is when I got that. Is when you know we first got together. So I had that thing a long time, right? And what wore out was the little bushings in it. Who cares? So I did buy a sheet of aluminum. This is 14 gauge. I think it's like 0.81 or something like that. Anyway, so 14 gauge aluminum, and I'll show you kind of why I bought that and what I'm using it for. I was going to use my plasma cutter to cut those. Decided to just go ahead and use the death wheel. And they do make specific like aluminum, like wheels for aluminum specifically. I actually had these. It was kind of surprising actually. I guess I've cut aluminum before. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into this. I'm going to drop down on the creeper, which I'm going to try to hold the camera straight, but you guys might want to give me a second and maybe not watch. Because my wife says it makes her dizzy. She actually started watching them. She's like, oh, I like watching them because it puts me to sleep. Great. Okay, so this is going to be the insulation that I put in, or insulation, the corrugated that I put in. I bought this from a trailer place. It's not super thick, not as thick as this stuff, but I think it'll do a good job. Still going to keep water out. There is insulation above this, but again, this is that whole generator propane housing. So I'm pretty much, I'm concerned with it. I did insulate it. I do have videos of me insulating the whole thing. But this only has an inch of insulation above it because this isn't really a heated area. And I just want to kind of keep some temperature out, but really it's more about like reducing noise and things like that. Okay, so this is how I like to actually cut these in. I do kind of more of like a star shape so that you have kind of this really nice tight fit around whatever it is versus just cutting some big old nasty hole in there and shoving things through like a Neanderthal. Anyway, this one runs right against this. I still have a small screw to slap in right here. I don't want to put anything in here that's going to collapse this because it'll change like the aesthetic of how this goes across. This is tucked up into here as far as it'll go. And then there's the insulation, and then there's this piece. And I did trim this out. Oops, sorry. I did trim this out around this so it fits in there, but you can, it's not going anywhere. So I'm kind of testing this little situation here. I don't really have anything above this, so I could kind of put a screw, like small screw in here. Maybe not 1/8 inch, but like a regular, like a self tapper, but just nothing real aggressive, right? And then a washer to hold on to it. I kind of cut this piece because it looked like this around the other side of this cylinder, and you can kind of see a little gap right here. I'm actually leaving these little gaps in here, and the reason for that is so that if we have any like propane leaks or anything like that, it is the lowest point. I was going to put, there was a screen that I was going to put right here that connected up to that propane tank, or the propane tank housing. And after doing like a leak down tests and things like that, this is going to be more than sufficient. Not only is it going to allow air in, but it's also going to allow that propane to fall out because this is the lowest point right here of where it is. So it would allow it to fall out. I did have to take this whole thing apart in order to make this actually look appropriate because you can see, I didn't slit this or anything. So this is all one solid piece. But this actually comes up, so this is just a compression fitting. And then this one right here, I did leave a little bit of marks on there. But anyway, so that allows you to be able to run like, I don't know, I'm assuming some kind of like little camp stove or something like that, which is kind of neat. I actually think this is pretty cool. I don't have any campers like that. My motorhome isn't like that. We do have propane on here, but we don't use it anymore. We did have a fridge in here that would run on like propane or 12 volt or 110 volt AC. It was like a Norcold or something. And it's a number one, well, maybe not number one, but it's the number one reason that takes these things out, because this one's an older one. Those fridges catch on fire because the coolant component in the back leaks out of the tube at some point, and then that catches on fire, and then poof, you know, it's hasta la vista. I put a residential one in there. I put a Samsung residential fridge in there, which that was a job. I mean, anyway, so I did put this piece on. It does look pretty nice here. Let me try to, yeah, there we go. I'm gonna try to keep my video square, I guess. Anyway, actually, let me move the light. There we go. So this piece comes up to where this valve is, so I could put a little screw here and a little screw on this other side, just kind of hold it. But it goes all the way up into here, and it's kind of movable now. You can see where it's still a little bit movable now, so I will probably secure that a little bit. I'll either put a piece of that like this tape. So I bought this tape right here because there's a hole right here because that fuel line used to come up, and this is where it comes from that fuel station out right here. And because it's inside now, I covered these up with this tape. Now this is like that mesh tape. So this is like that mesh that you see on the back of like other campers that are like wood. They'll have like a fabric version of this underneath it, and this is supposed to be like water permeable, or not water permeable and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so this is just the tape version of that same weave, and I bought it, so I cleaned all this up with alcohol and then stuck it to it, just so I don't have these holes. Now there is like 2 layers of insulation above this, so who cares, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting any water in here. I did the same thing on that one. That one is way more, like, they went absolutely gross on that one. You can see how big the hole is here, and then they slit that to get that fuel line in there. But that was the bigger fuel line, and it now runs basically up above this, and then it cuts up through here because that's where it goes in. But yeah, it used to run down the edge, and now it's all inside, so I kind of put that in there too. This looks like this because of the slit that they put in there. But cool. Okay, so anyway, so this is what this end looks like. It's all zipped up at this point. I'm pretty happy with all this. The factory actually used stainless washers, where I tried to use the stainless washers as much as I could back in here. But some of these areas, like this is 1 inch. So along here, I did 1 inches, even though I didn't really discuss that a whole lot, because that rail is kind of short right there. And so I wanted to zip into that rail there without compromising too much of the insulation. So anyway, so this is what this looks like. This side, there's 2 pieces to this because there's that generator housing, and I'll zip down there and kind of show you that. Okay, so I put an aluminum plate here, kind of more like a heat sink. So this actually just kind of goes against it. There's no attachment, but you can see I can't really pull that loose because there's a lot of force there. And it's tucked up underneath here. This plate is tucked up underneath here too, but you can see the rivets in it. So, and then there's rivets here. And then that aluminum plate that I bought, this is what I did with it. So this is the end of that generator housing right here, and this is the exhaust. So this is the exhaust for the generator housing, and you can see where those final edges are. Wow. Sorry, I'm sounding kind of weird because I'm laying on my back, and I guess I got a stuffy nose. Anyway, so what I did was I clamped these pieces on and then drilled them and then riveted them. I'm not chuckling because I'm happy. This extrusion on this side has valleys in it, right? So instead of it being a nice, good, clean extrusion, it actually thick, thin, thin. Like they must have had a problem with the water jacket when they were extruding this one right here, and it was coming out hot. So these inner parts of the extrusion right here shrunk, and so this isn't actually a true edge. Not only is it not a true edge, but it leans forward. It leans forward almost 1/8 of an inch, which means that this beam isn't actually true along the front of this. It's actually tilted out by 1/8 of an inch. So I guess there wasn't a jig used there, or if there was, it wasn't right. I mean, whatever, whole thing's been like that. Anyway, so I did the same thing here on this side, and on this one you can see that it's at an angle. And so what I did was I actually cut this piece of aluminum, and it'll go basically up here at the front, which I got to trim this so it goes at an angle, and then it kind of comes in right there, and then it's, you can see there. And then what I do is I'll drill it. So I put it on with clamps, so I'll clamp it into position, which is what I did on those two. I'll clamp that into position and then drill it and rivet it, and then I'll rivet this piece, and that kind of makes it way more like rigid and solid and that kind of thing. And then I did redo the exhaust, which I'll kind of get into that now too. So I put this 2-inch, 1/8-inch wall square tubing on this, and I notched it in the top so I could run screws into the top right there. And then this is that clamp that I kind of used everywhere, not only on this rig, but on other equipment too. I really like the ability that you can just kind of pop all this loose if you need to service it, right? It's just easy. Robust, see that? Robust, but easy to disassemble. Anyway, so I ended up putting a screw inside there as well, because obviously with this brace on here, it was only attached at the top. So there was nothing actually holding the bottom half of this to the frame. And so when this would move or whatever, this whole thing would kind of flex. So I actually drilled a pilot hole through here so that I could run not this bit, but a bit through it. And I was able to kind of get that screw in. But I still had to fish the lock washer and the washer. Like I held the screw in and then had to fish it in, and then put the whole thing in. Then I put the strap on and blah, blah, blah. But there it is. You can see that is way more solid. If you've seen my other videos, you've seen this thing just dangling around, because it, and I did put this back together, but this was the strap that was originally on it. You can see how heavily bent the strap was. And then that whole thing completely broke out. And just think, we've only actually had this thing on like 3 trips. Now, I say 3 trips. My version of trips are thousands of miles, right? So after a few 2,000-3,000 miles, this right here was broke and just hanging, and the generator's just dangling around. Now, one of the reasons it was like that is because you can see where this pipe is not straight on here, right? And it's because when they tighten that clamp down, so they put the pipe in, when they tighten the clamp down, they didn't orientate this pipe appropriately straight like that when they tighten that down. That's out of my reach. I can't actually reach that. And not only can I not reach that, but even when I had like all of this off and everything, I still couldn't reach that because the end of this housing comes to down like right here. And so I would have had to reach all the way inside to actually reach that. This was probably put on, you know, like before they put the housing on the generator or something, right? Or actually before they put this in, they probably put this pipe on and then they put this piece in. Like they slid it down and set it in. I don't know how they did it, whatever. I don't know. I can't reach that. I don't have like 3.5 foot long arms or 4 foot long arms. So I can't quite reach that, because I would like to loosen those two up and actually straighten this out. And that would really make my day. But I guess technically with it being angled like that, if water hits it, it just streamlines off, right? I mean, maybe that was the thought process. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, so this is nice and solid. So when I go, I'm going to put another piece of that trim right here, and then put another piece of this plate all right here so that I have kind of a heat sink off of this. This right here, when I go to put it corrugated in, there's nearly a 3-inch gap here between here and here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to header wrap this, because I still have quite a bit of material left from other projects. I have big rolls of header wrap material. Anyway, so I'm going to actually probably wrap it from like right here all the way. I'll take this off and wrap it all the way to the end. And then I actually have DEI, which is the header wrap material that I use. DEI has these little like high temperature like shrink tubing pieces. Like it keeps it from fraying and stuff like that, right? And so I'll put a piece of it here, and then another piece of it here, and then slip this back on, screw it back in, and then, well, I'll slip this back on instead. I'll put it all back together. But this will all be header wrapped so that with that corrugated's here, I don't have to worry about like the temperature of this, because this thing could be running for 2 or 3 hours and I can walk up and just kind of touch it, right? And it's not super hot. but it's not as hot as it would be if it was just open like this. It actually keeps it kind of out of here. But anyway, so I'm not sealing these edges or anything. I don't mind if a little bit of heat escapes up into here. That's not a big deal. Air volume alone kind of pushes this out, and that's never going to be an issue anyway. So here we are. This is the last piece that I have to do. I'm going to put that trim in there. I wanted to video this. Actually, what's really funny is that my wife, I was getting ready to wrap this up last night, and she's like, well, aren't you going to make another video where you can kind of show people what you did here? And I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, because I was just going to show a finished video. But so she called me out on that, believe it or not. And anyway, so she actually thinks it's kind of cool that people have been like commenting and that kind of stuff on the videos. Anyway, I think it's kind of cool too, honestly. But anyway, so I'm going to finish this piece up, and then this will be the last phase of this process, other than I got to kind of finish that up, which I'll do the same thing on this one. But exciting. Everything's insulated. I'm actually pretty happy. Again, it's going to be absolutely awesome that this isn't open anymore, because remember, like, that's exactly how it looked. Like, totally open like that. And then if you guys didn't do what I did to block that water line off, then that water line has water in it. And when you're driving down the road, the air's just scooping right up inside that. And if it's cold, winter, anything like that, that's totally what's going down, is that line's going to freeze. Because that line right there comes right from the pump. Anyway, so I have another video that has like this whole thing in it, and I'm not going to get into that, but I just want to let everybody know that looking from the bottom, there's your water line right there that goes to that spigot right there that's on the front of this thing. And that's how easy it is for this to literally freeze. And your pump is like literally like right there on the other side of that wall. Now mine's insulated, yours probably won't be, but literally that's where the pump, that's where all your water lines and everything to this rig is. And this is how close to freezing it is if you're using this in low temperature areas. But anyway, so that's awesome. I also use that tape. On a second note, I use that tape right there. Right in that spot right there. The same tape. Just because I had to slit that to get those two fittings through. So that's what I did there. So I'm pretty happy about that. I still need to build a like a flap. So this aluminum that I have here, I'm going to build a little flap in front of the, where'd it go? There it is. In front of that little radiator, or that little muffler right there. I'm going to build a flap in front of it. So that'll be pretty awesome. Okay, other than that, then I think the belly's done. And then I can drop this thing down and I can torque my wheels. So I'll be pretty happy about that. I do have thunder tube stuff that I'm going to make. I'll probably make a video out of that too, just so you guys know. And I'll try to do my best on that. So hopefully, not only does this give people ideas for their own fifth wheel, whether it's an ATC or not, but just, I mean, don't be afraid to get into stuff. That's how we all learn, right? We all learn by tearing stuff up, making mistakes, and fixing it, right? Now, if you don't think you can fix it, don't tear it apart, please. I mean, unless you have really good friends. Anyway, but yeah, just don't be afraid to tear stuff apart. That's how we all learn, and I think that we all need to do more of that, because there needs to be more people out there that are willing to dive into stuff. Anyway, so regardless of what I think, right? So here's the little housing, all that kind of stuff. You guys have an awesome day, and I will probably show you another video on doing some thunder tube mounting. Now, there is that one that comes from the factory right there, and I actually threw the hose out over there because I'm not going to use it. That thing right there is just shy of, oh, sorry. That one is just shy of like 4 feet, and it literally, so again, another one of my videos going off on something, right? So this one obviously won't fit in there because that fitting on there, unless I take that fitting off. But these ones right here, and I'm only pointing these out because I like these, right? This little fitting that's right here, man, that thing really seals up, does an awesome job. These are easy to index and take apart and put together. And this tubing that they use on here is pretty rigid. Like, it's not super rigid, it will give a little, but I really like it. Sorry, I'm burping now that I stood up. But 2 of these together won't fit in that tube. It hangs out to about right here, like, and that's fully compressed, right? So that's not quite long enough. I don't know what I'm going to use that for. I don't know, somewhere down the road, right? But as far as these are concerned, I'm actually going to build some kind of assembly in here or up here. I'm not sure. I actually think I'm going to utilize this upper space right here for potentially a cord reel. I ordered a new cord. You can see that this is broke, which is awesome because this is really cheap plastic, right? And this cord, see, I just tripped on that cord. Look at how rigid that is. I mean, look at that. I mean, that is that rigid, guys. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, actually, I don't want to pop that out of there. But, yeah, it's just, and the only reason that it's hanging like this is just the sheer weight of the cable pulling it down. But it's, like, look at that. It is super, super rigid. And I mean, it's been sitting here for like a month and a half right here, and this hasn't settled down like at all. It's maintained that exact position right there the whole time, unless I push it in or I pull the tray out and I hook it to the tray, because when I was working on this, that's what I did, like that kind of thing. But I ordered a new cord, and so I may do like a little video action on the cord, just to see how that goes, because this one comes straight out. Which, I mean, really, honestly, when the cord's laying on the ground, the weight's kind of not evenly distributed, but at least it's not, like, this isn't taking the full brunt of the weight, right? But the one that I ordered actually has, like, a pistol grip on it, and it lights up to let you know it's plugged in, that kind of thing. Even though, you know, if you plug these things in, you can totally hear that switch gear in there go at it. But anyway, so it's, and I'll have a video on that. But other than that, yeah, I'm going to work on thunder tubes when I get done with the front right here. And I'm pretty excited because that's almost done. You guys have an awesome day. And I'm going to crank up the stereo and get to work. Thanks.